Cayenne Kisses and Cosmic Confluence, A Spice Merchant's Tale. The Alien Bazaar on New Meridian was a sensory overload of exotic sights, sounds, and most importantly, smells. Frank Kellen stood behind his modest stall, arranging his collection of earth spices with practiced care. His weathered hands, calloused from years of grinding and packaging spices, moved with deliberate precision. As he adjusted the display of colorful powders and dried herbs, the morning crowd shuffled past his booth, a parade of various alien species going about their daily routines. Frank had been operating his spice stand for 3 standard years now, ever since humanity had been granted limited trading rights in the Galactic Commonwealth. His particular corner of the bazaar, tucked between a Centaurian crystal merchant and a Relian fabric vendor, had become something of a curiosity among the local alien population. Running a hand through his tousled brown hair, Frank straightened his light shirt and adjusted his warm brown vest. The familiar weight of the garment was comforting, a small reminder of Earth in this alien environment. He'd chosen this particular outfit careful professional enough to be taken seriously, but casual enough to appear approachable to potential customers. Another day in paradise, he muttered to himself, watching as various aliens cast curious glances at his wares. Most were drawn by the unusual scents wafting from his stall, though few had the courage to actually sample his goods. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, and many species remained wary of Earth products. That's when he saw her. She emerged from the crowd like a vision, her violet skin gleaming under the bazaar's artificial lighting. Her bright purple hair was tied in a high ponytail that swayed with each step. Her golden brown outfit, a futuristic design that somehow managed to be both revealing and elegant, caught the eye of every species capable of sight. Frank felt his breath catch as she approached his stall, her golden eyes fixed on his display with obvious curiosity. She moved with a grace that seemed almost predatory, yet there was something vulnerable in the way she kept glancing around, as if worried about being seen. "Are these Earth products?" she asked in perfect standard, her voice carrying a melodic quality that sent a pleasant shiver down Frank's spine. "Yes, ma'am," he replied, slipping into his practiced sales persona. "Finest spices from Earth, each one carefully selected and prepared. Would you like to try a sample?" She leaned closer, examining the various containers with obvious fascination. "I've heard stories about human spices. They say they can produce interesting effects on some species." Frank raised an eyebrow, maintaining his professional demeanor, despite the way her proximity made his pulse quicken. "Every species reacts differently to our spices. That's why I always recommend starting with a small sample." "Something unusual," she said, her golden eyes meeting his. "Something I've never experienced before." Frank considered for a moment, then reached for a small container filled with a deep red powder. "This might interest you. We call it cayenne pepper. It's quite popular among certain adventurous customers." She reached for the container, her delicate fingers brushing against his as she took it. The brief contact sent an electric jolt through both of them, and for a moment, their eyes locked. "How much?" she asked, her voice slightly husky. "First sample's free," Frank replied, surprised by his own boldness. "Consider it a welcome to Earth cuisine." She smiled, revealing perfect white teeth that contrasted beautifully with her violet skin. "How generous. I'm Lisa, by the way." "Frank Kellen," he responded, watching as she carefully tucked the sample container into a hidden pocket in her outfit. "I hope you enjoy your experience, Lisa." Lisa's smile turned slightly mischievous. "Oh, I'm sure I will. Thank you, Frank Kellen. I have a feeling we'll be seeing each other again soon." As she walked away, Frank couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just set something significant in motion. He had no idea just how right he was. The following morning, Frank was arranging his display when a familiar violet figure practically materialized at his stall. Lisa's usual grace was somewhat compromised. Her breathing was slightly irregular, and a faint sheen of perspiration glistened on her skin. Her golden eyes were dilated, and her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the edge of his counter. "Good morning, Frank," said, trying to maintain his professional demeanor despite his concern. "Did you enjoy the sample?" "Enjoy isn't quite the word," Lisa replied, her voice carrying a slight tremor. "I've never experienced anything like it. The warmth, the sensations, it was, She trailed off, seemingly lost in the memory. Frank leaned closer, lowering his voice. Are you all right? You seem a bit affected. I need more, she whispered urgently. And I need to understand what it does. What is in this spice of yours? It's just capsaicin, the compound that gives peppers their heat, Frank explained, watching her reactions carefully. Though I've never seen it affect anyone quite like this before. Lisa glanced around furtively before leaning in closer. The scent of something exotic and floral wafted from her skin, making Frank's head swim slightly. When I tried it last night, it started as warmth. Then everything became intensified. Every sensation, every touch. She bit her lower lip, her golden eyes meeting his. Is it supposed to do that? Frank felt his mouth go dry. Not exactly. For humans, it just adds flavor and heat to food, though some species do report unusual effects. Effects doesn't begin to describe it. Lisa murmured. She straightened up, attempting to regain her composure. I want to buy more. She gestured at his display, and perhaps discuss these effects in detail. The way she said that made it clear that discussion was far from the topic at hand and would have something else in it. Frank felt his heartbeat accelerate, maintained his professional facade. I closed the stall at sunset. We could meet at the Silver Moon Cafe. That's quieter there, better for discussion. A smile played at the corners of Lisa's mouth. Perfect, but for now that what she wanted, she just needed 3 more counts and see. Throughout the day, Frank found himself distracted by thoughts of the evening ahead. He'd heard rumors about certain alien species having unusual reactions to Earth spices, but nothing like this. The scientific implications alone were fascinating, to say nothing of the personal ones. When sunset finally arrived, Frank closed his stall with more haste than usual. You knew what she was, just as a doctor would, so why you let her was beyond what he would. The Silver Moon Cafe was something different, and what that made for it and her. The booth had to be small, not to where there will be no to the thing would let him do. Lisa arrived moments later, her golden brown outfit somehow even more striking in the cafe. Soft lighting, she slid into the booth across from him, her movements fluid despite the slight tremor he could still detect in her hands. I tried the ghost pepper, she said without preamble, her voice low and intense. It was overwhelming. Frank leaned forward, genuinely concerned. Are you okay? That's one of the hottest pears we have. More than okay, she assured him, her golden eyes seeming to glow in the dim light. But I need to understand what's happening to me. When I take the spice, everything becomes heightened, colors are brighter, sounds are clearer, and touch. She reached across the table, running a finger along the back of his hand. Touch becomes almost unbearable in its intensity. Frank suppressed a shiver at her contact. And you've never experienced anything like this before. Never. She confirmed. My species, the E3, we're known for our emotional control, our restraint, but these spices of yours. She withdrew her hand, but her eyes remained fixed on his. They break through all of that. They make me feel everything that sounds intense, Frank said carefully. Maybe we should stop. No, Lisa interrupted, perhaps too quickly. No, I don't want to stop. I want to understand. I want. She paused, seeming to search for words. I want to explore this with you. The implications of her statement hung in the air between them. Frank studied her face, noting the slight flush of her violet skin, the way her pupils had dilated further in the dim light. This isn't just about the spices, is it? He asked softly. Leah's laugh was both musical and slightly nervous. Is anything ever just about one thing? The spices awakened something in me, yes, but you. She reached across the table again, this time letting her fingers intertwine with his. You intrigue me. Frank Kellen. Your species is so new to our galaxy, yet you bring with you such intensity, such passion. Frank felt his pulse quick, and at her touch, at the way she said his name, Leisha. I don't say anything yet, she interrupted gently. Just feel. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the simple contact of their joined hands, speaking volumes. Finally, Frank spoke. We should probably take this slowly. Whatever effect these spices are having on you isn't just the spices, Leia finished. But you're right. Slowly, she squeezed his hand once before releasing it. Though I will need more spices for research purposes. Of course. Frank couldn't help but laugh off. Of course. Research. Over the next few weeks, Frank and Lisa developed a routine. During the day, she would visit his stall ostensibly to purchase spices, but their conversations grew longer and more personal. After sunset, they would meet at various locations throughout the bazaar district, where Lisa introduced Frank to the intricacies of ether culture. One evening, they sat in her private garden apartment, surrounded by bioluminescent flowers that cast a soft, ethereal glow. The air was heavy with the scent of alien blooms and the lingering aroma of earth spices. In the Theory Society, Elisha explained, arranging crystalline cups on a low table, we're taught from childhood to maintain emotional distance. Physical contact is also very limited. She poured an iridescent liquid that seemed to shimmer in the ambient light. These traditions kept our society stable for millennia. Frank accepted the offered cup, their fingers brushing deliberately, until earth spices came along and disrupted everything. Until you came along, she corrected. Her golden eyes intense. The spices merely awakened. Something that was always there, dormant beneath our carefully constructed controls. The admission hung in the air between them, new, charged with possibility. Frank took a sip from his cup, surprised by the pleasant tingling sensation that spread across his tongue. This is remarkable. It's called starlight nectar, Lisa said, moving closer. Traditionally served during courtship rituals. She paused, watching his reaction. I thought it appropriate given our situation. Frank set his cup down carefully. Is that what? This is courtship among my people. Courtship is a formal process, bound by strict rules and traditions. Leah's voice dropped to a whisper, but I find myself increasingly disinterested in rules. She reached for a small container of ghost pepper powder. These earth spices of yours have shown me there's more to life than careful control. She opened the container, letting the spicy aroma fill the air between them. Frank watched fascinated as she dipped her finger in the powder and brought it to her lips. The effect was immediate. Her pupils dilated, and a visible shiver ran through her body. The sensations are different now, she murmured, more focused, especially when you're near. Frank felt his heart rate accelerate. Lisa, are you sure about this? The spices seem to affect your judgment. No, she interrupted, moving even closer. The spices don't cloud my judgment. They clarify it. They strip away the artificial constraints my society placed on me. Her hand found his fingers intertwining. When I'm with you, everything makes sense. Every sensation is pure, honest, real. The bioluminescent flowers seemed to pulse in rhythm with their accelerating heartbeats. Frank could feel the warmth radiating from her. Violet skin smelled the intoxicating mixture of alien perfume and earth spices in human culture. He said carefully, we believe in following our hearts, but also in respecting boundaries. Lee laughed softly. Another beautiful human paradox. Your species fascinates me, Frank. You're so young in galactic terms, yet you understand things that my people have forgotten: the importance of feeling. Yes, of connection. She leaned forward, her bright purple hair falling like a curtain around them. I want to experience everything with you, not because of the spices, but because of who you are, who we are together. Their first kiss was electric, a fusion of human passion and alien grace. The ghost pepper's effects amplified every sensation, making Leash a gasp against his lips. When they finally parted, both were breathing heavily. That was, Frank began. Perfect, Lisa finished, like all of your earth treasures. Simple, powerful, honest. She traced a finger along his jaw. Stay with me tonight. The question carried weight. Beyond its simple words, Frank knew this moment would change everything between them, transcending cultural boundaries and social norms. Are you certain? He asked one final time in response. Lash took another taste of the ghost pepper powder, then pulled him close. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. What followed was a night of discovery, where human passion met alien grace in a dance as old as life itself. The spices heightened every sensation, every touch, every moment of connection between them. But beyond the physical, there was something deeper forming, a bond that transcended their different species and cultures. As the artificial dawn began to paint the sky outside her apartment, they lay together wrapped in sheets that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. Lisa traced patterns on Frank's chest, her touch still electric even after hours of intimacy. I never understood before, she murmured. My people speak of transcendence through control, through denial. But this is true transcendence. Frank pulled her closer, marveling at how perfectly they fit together despite their biological differences. This changes everything, doesn't it? Everything changed the moment I tasted your spices, Lisa said, smiling. This just makes it real. The Athery Institute of Xenobiology was an imposing structure of crystalline spires and floating platforms. Frank felt distinctly out of place in his casual Earth attire as he followed Lisa through its pristine corridors. They'd been summoned by Dr. Theron, the leading researcher in cross-species biochemistry. Remind me again why we agreed to this, Frank whispered, noting the curious glances from passing scientists. Lisa squeezed his hand reassuringly. Because the effects of Earth spices on ether physiology could be groundbreaking, and because I'd rather have legitimate research than underground speculation. They entered a private laboratory, where Dr. Theron, a distinguished ether male with silver-streaked violet skin, awaited them. His clinical demeanor softened slightly at the sight of their joined hands. Fascinating, he murmured, gesturing them to sit. The first documented case of sustained human-ethery pair bonding, and all because of, he consulted his notes. Capsaicin compounds, among other things, Lisa replied, her golden eyes meeting Frank's with a hint of mischief. The spices acted as a catalyst, but our connection goes deeper. Dr. Theron's instruments hummed as he took readings. Your biochemical readings are extraordinary, Lisa. The neural pathways typically suppressed in our species are fully active, and your hormone levels, he paused, rechecking his data. They mirror human patterns of attraction and bonding. Frank leaned forward. Is that dangerous? Quite the contrary, Doctor, Theron replied, his professional excitement showing through. It's revolutionary. Our species has practiced emotional suppression for so long, we forgot its cost. These Earth spices seem to bypass millennia of genetic conditioning, allowing natural responses we thought lost to evolution. Lisa shifted closer to Frank. The spices enhance everything: emotions, sensations, awareness, but only in the presence of genuine attraction. I've seen others try the spices with no effect. Indeed, Doctor. Theron's eyes gleamed with scientific interest. Would you be willing to participate in a controlled study? Nothing invasive, just monitoring your responses to various Earth spices in different contexts. Frank felt Lisa tense beside him. As long as our privacy is respected, she said firmly. What we share is not a laboratory experiment. Of course, Doctor, Theron assured them. We're more interested in the biochemical mechanisms. Though he hesitated. There is one. Delicate matter we should discuss. Frank's protective instincts flare what matter. Reproduction, Dr. Theron stated. Matter-of-factly, the changes in Lisha's biochemistry suggest potential compossibilities, if you're engaging in intimate relationships. We are, Luza interrupted her, violet skin flushing darker frequently. Frank cuffed, but Dr. Theron merely nodded. Then you should know, it's theoretically possible for conception to occur at the spices seem to be altering cellular receptors in ways we never thought possible. The implications hit them both simultaneously. Frank turned to Lisha, whose expression mixed shop was something that looked suspiciously like hope. Would any offspring be healthy? She asked softly, based on these readings. Yes, though. We'd need to monitor the situation carefully. This would be unprecedented in galactic history. After leaving the Institute, they walked in thoughtful silence through the hanging gardens that connected the scientific district to the bazaar. The artificial sun was setting, casting rainbow refractions through the crystal structures above a baby. Frank finally said, "That's possible." Lisa stopped, turning to face him. "Does the idea frighten you?" "Terrify is more accurate," he admitted with a small laugh, but also he pulled her close, breathing in her exotic scent mixed with the ever-present hint of spices. "Also excite me, the idea of creating something new, something that's both of us, something that would change everything." Lisha finished. "Like these spices changed me, changed us." She reached into her pocket, pulling out a small container of ghost pepper powder. Speaking of which, Frank watched entranced as she took a taste. Her pupils dilated immediately, and her skin seemed to glow from within. "You are still affected so strongly." More strongly, she pulled him. It was a look for help for her. She knew that the world they would have come into with their love may not be enough, or where she stood if that wasn't to show with them in heart to what she just knew that she'd done. And with the wind through her hair, and knew that it never would be what they were at. Their hearts would do will they need to. As the sun was going down, she was ready. They could help, or was where the story will make them the truth. There would make a new day for them all to what came. Then that made, was it not always the one that will come to a new world and a new dawn? Let make one and in heart. The word she said did come, that to have what can be what made them in their all. Let come to them all that they never knew would what they were to. They never said to let them have knew what their love would be, only that it's was. They both what could do what it was, and what they will do. It isn't their choice who we see fit to will make us come to love and heart too. I love you with all my heart. There isn't where this world knows is what we all will be. To not say or do for not who we get to let this come this. To get what she said, and that her heat wasn't to will, for now she and just knew it would get in. The world of her love and will as she stood, and got to go on, she made her there and knew. And from that day it would never be the same with all their hearts that were as she saw. They was here to help it too, not that would be, and never again their souls could not be together. For it they love one in a world of what it came. Now it will be what she always has knew all along. She will always love what never would they had, and they were with her too. And there always will be this day on, and never, ever, or. That this will have what never would get to the end, and get it be. And never has, never had love than they had from the time, and they were in time. You or are me, she said. All it was all the new. New and was what or who was they. Know not what, it's who. No and or. Never will I what get you. That's a promise you didn't, or will it too, will all time and soul. She spoke with power than she had ever, and her would to not. Ever let what her get to now, or what will. As one and in what we all, what will it, all. It is never all of what we do will. But can we did. He spoke and just knew. That never got all, had ever what, all. Never said them knew all heart she had, in never all. For heart never knew. They just knew, together would have they, that never what where. Are we always had heart, no, and in their souls. Therein not there's love with a never. You made a life so heartly to get them with us. I can, do, that will just say all, or know what, or did will. And they just knew what was, always for then heart, as is never had been or not. She would said no to that new, as or never. And here to did with, it can you say. In this life you just knew. She would, knew and can get to the time that she could know, and will. It just was never new as heart and said or new in life. They would all and can to say she has with you. No, she will always will what, it's a life will has not said. To you my heart she had, it can, will just you in time, it's you, me in time there's not is never all. Just you I can say what you want. Or I get it will, or as heard of that her could never had got knew her. That's it, for a promise or what's never been, is new if, or said to, I got her will. I love or can will did, there. As she did knew. What and knew, all their time, what is what will love, or it's, all time can hear and knew and heart. Are always and will me what, or is I, am you, and knew this time and know it, as their heart. What the knew for the said to her with I say she did had you,